Hello there. This is the day of the full moon in Taurus, the 15th of November. And today's full moon is part of a larger and much longer cycle of growth that began April of 2024. Do you remember back in April of 2024, we had that Jupiter and Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus? That was all about bringing in blessings, abundance, and growth. And when we hear about a fortunate transit like that, we expect almost a day of miracles or something to happen the day of the conjunction. So thinking back to April, a lot of us were probably wondering where our blessing was. Where was this big windfall of abundance and growth and optimism? But remember, it is part of a 14-year cycle that began then. Now, today, the 15th of November, is a boost or a check-in or a significant date or turning point in part of a larger 14-year cycle. Jupiter may not be in Taurus today with the full moon, but Uranus is. So, having moved past a lot of impatience, ungratefulness, even greediness, that could have come around during Taurus season, around that conjunction in April. Now, do you see your blessings? The last Taurus major lunation was the 7th, 8th of May. We had a new moon in Taurus then. So look back to the days surrounding the 7th and 8th of May. Even a month after that, you could really go as far as to look at that. And where have you expanded since then? What seeds were you sowing around the 7th and 8th of May of this year that have now begun to grow? Maybe the fruit is showing and you're collecting on that harvest. There is a significant blessing that's occurred since then in relation to something that was downloading for you at that time or being experienced or felt or dreamed of. I'm going to link below the tarot reading I did around the 7th and 8th of May. It's interesting to look back on something like that now that we're 6 months later in a full moon in Taurus. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling some cards now for a collective energy check-in for this Taurus full moon. Let me see, was there anything else that I wanted to talk about? Yes, I'm just looking back at I looked back at that reading today, and it was a lot about grounding and the need to ground. Think about what's perhaps being stirred up in the majority of the collective right now. Because of recent events, there has been a just crescendo of emotion coming to the surface. Some people are extremely frustrated and extremely scared, even very fearful. Some people are extremely hopeful, excited, even exuberant. So there is a real polarity in the collective emotionally at this time. And when situations like this happen for us in the collective or in the timeline, it's going to be majorly important to ground. The star card at the bottom of the deck, a vision, an ideal, a wish, the future. Back around the 7th and 8th of May during that new moon in Taurus with expansive Jupiter and liberating Uranus, which is this signature with the star card Uranian energy, there was a kind of a desire to plant seeds, to think about the vision, to dream it up, to imagine. Now it's basically taken form. It started to become a reality. It started to root, and steps have been taken towards making this very concrete and real and tangible. The super interesting thing about this full moon, which is in Earth sign Taurus today, is that it is the last full moon in our whole lifetime, guys, that will be aspected by Pluto in Capricorn. Capricorn is Earth too, so anything moving through Capricorn aspecting the full moon in Earth Taurus is a harmonious trine aspect from Earth to Earth. So think of it as that boost from Pluto now to this full moon. This is about growth. How have you grown? But how did you need to ground first before taking off? It's kind of like the sort of shoots of a bamboo. So much time spent underground, seeding into the earth. It's natural to lose faith that it will ever grow for you, or you'll ever see the results of what you planted or what you were embodying or grounding into or even dreaming of. And when finally the bamboo shoots are ready, well, they grow. We know how bamboo grows, stronger than most other plants, I'm gonna say. I don't know. But I mean, that's what I think of, at least. Really strong, really durable. And it grows really tall and quite fast, right? That's kind of like what's happened between the 7th, 8th of May-ish. About like a month around that date, you know, starting with the conjunction in late April, going past the 7th, 8th of May into later May, up until now. All right, so here we have the Knight of Swords. Something's taking off, something's flying really quickly. Another Knight, a Knight of Pentacles. Something slowing down, something is grinding to a halt. And the Hierophant, well, this is Taurus's energy in the major arcana. So we have a beautiful energy here for the Taurus full moon with the Hierophant. And this is not something short term that you are applying yourself towards. This is something built to last. Like Taurus really is about investing in themselves and investing in something solid and growth oriented and necessary. This is not a fad, it's not a trend. When we see the Hierophant, we know that this is something integral for people. It's what humans do. It's something to do with maybe it's something Taurian, like the land, like the physical body, like health, like wellness, like food, but those things are fundamentally human. Maybe it's something more philosophical, religious, or spiritual indeed, which could be something to do with the Hierophant's signifiers, something to do with the wisdom that you have learned and gained since the new moon back in early May. The Hierophant often speaks to applied wisdom and transmuting that wisdom into something like teachable, or basically the teacher appearing or the student becoming the teacher, or you imparting your wisdom and sharing what you've learned with other people. That is very much a Hierophant signature. All right, so let's see. We've got the past and the present here with the Knight of Swords. We've got a slow journey into the future, but you've got to run back and tie up some loose ends from the past, it seems. So your energy, your focus, and your commitments are split at this time. You're split or you're divided between where you thought you were going or where you've been, versus where you are presently embodied and where you are. We can't predict the future, and we don't know what the future is going to look like. We can learn from the past and recall and remember what the past looked like. It's been experienced by us. We gained a lot of wisdom there from the past, but from the present moment, the future can only really be, I guess, educated guesses can be taken as to how things will go based on our current trajectory. But what I'm basically saying is the past has happened, but you've got to go back there somehow or for some reason to revisit or to finish something off, to pay focus to again, to apologize, to see where the wrongdoings were, to talk to these people, to get in touch, to make amends, to figure it all out and kind of close a certain chapter of your life. So you're split between who you were, who you thought you were going to be, your divided loyalties, some of you, between two parts of yourself or two versions of yourself. And I hope that the Hierophant can teach us something with its major arcana wisdom about principles and values. So we can change our principles and values, I'm sure, throughout our life, but there are certain fundamental building blocks that are integral for us to honor. This speaks about staying true to your values no matter who you're around, no matter who hears you. And we're in Scorpio season now, the full moon of Scorpio season, with this Taurus full moon today. And it's about authenticity and rawness, realness, and showing up as who you are, aligned with your values, not listening to what this celebrity or this influencer thinks or says, because chances are that's not in alignment with their values either. But maybe something is at stake, maybe they have cognitive dissonance, maybe they're being bought, or not letting yourself align to values that only serve yourself, where other people in the collective may be harmed or victimized by upholding certain principles and values. It's really hard. It's a real call now as we elevate on our personal timeline. Since the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction took place, I think it was April 20th, and then I know on the 23rd there was a full moon in Scorpio, and now we have the new moon in Scorpio at the beginning of this month and the full moon today. So all around that time it was like a timeline hop, but we think that when we move to another timeline and execute what needed to be executed on the past timeline, we think, gung-ho, we're going to be like moving swiftly onwards, upwards, that, we won't run into any difficulties, there will be no shadow work to do. And that's actually not how it goes at all. As you elevate your consciousness, your frequency, you're going to be in a situation or on a timeline which requires you to be more authentic, more real, more truthful. And anything, Five of Swords at the bottom of the deck here, that has been lurking in the shadow of your subconscious or in your psyche, or habits or traits or deadbeat patterns that you've been operating on, well, they're going to all come to the surface. You've got wisdom now, so you'll know how to tackle this, but it's coming to the surface so that you can springboard to the next upgraded timeline, the next version of reality for yourself. And guess what? There'll be another set of challenges there. Okay, so it's a tricky one, as you're kind of like, you've basically upgraded your life since May 7th, right? And now it's about the Scorpio energy coming through, as the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus today. It's about facing a new set of shadowy aspects in yourself, or ways in which you're not being true to yourself, not being real, and perhaps in ways in which you're being blindsided by what you want or what sounds good for your set of values, but may not necessarily work for another person, and maybe it would be detrimental. And it's not all your responsibility, and nor is it your responsibility to be completely authentic and real for a collective of people. It's not your responsibility. However, I don't think it serves you long term not to be as authentic as possible at this time in the collective on the full moon. Let me talk about this a little bit more mundanely. The Knight of Swords. At the moment, you find yourself going back to the past with a urgency, with a sense of stress and even anxiety. Maybe it's just a lot of adrenaline. to fix something, to figure something out, and potentially to draw a line under that and head towards the future in a slow and steady way, embodying who you are in the present moment, and bringing with yourself moving forward, like, this is who I am, this is who I really am, subject to change again, I'm sure, in this lifetime, but for here and now, this is who I am, okay? And see me as who I am. And that's a work in progress. So the present energy is you taking steps towards a future of being true to your values and principle. And then it looks like, to me, for many of us watching, the next chapter of soul growth, the Hierophant, is going to be one of, I'm based, I'm embodied, I'm right about this, I know who I am, I'm sure of myself, I'm self-possessed, not the same as self-obsessed, I'm self-possessed, and guess what? I could teach you a thing about this, or as everybody else or some other people might still be spiraling in the emotional pendulum of just such divided polarity right now of exuberance, excitement, and hope and faith versus despair and disaster and crisis and disappointment. The Hierophant would sit between these two pillars, between those polarities, and not necessarily, be able to see points of view and perspective, not necessarily agree with one or the other or both or either one, but yes, hold space, but stay centered, stay grounded in themselves, in their own reality. That is the real next test of soul growth for us here watching, I think. And then the teacher element, or the wise one, or the elder, or the sage, or the shaman kind of effect of this card comes through. You will be then available to let other people know how to do this, okay? Because it's not comfortable to be identified with external emotions and external loosh. Is that what the word is? I don't know. That's one of those things I don't fully understand. But anyway, I think that's how that applies. I'm not going to get any more. I'm not going any further out there. I'm going to keep it very Taurian and very safe today. Yeah, that's what I've got for you. I really encourage you to check the sign of, I really encourage you to look at your birth chart using your rising sign. It will calculate all of the houses in your birth chart, and wherever Taurus is in your birth chart, that house is the area of life that we're really talking about here. And of course, getting more nitty gritty, the aspects from anything in your 8th house. Oh no, sorry, I have a Taurus 8th house, but anything in your Taurus house, or the ruler of your Taurus house, for instance. What rules Taurus? Venus. So for me, my 8th house is Taurus, my 8th house's lord is Venus, and so my Venus is in the 7th house, blah, 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 blah. So I'll be looking at the 8th house and the 7th house, okay? So you'll look at your Taurus house overall, and if that's as far as you want to go, that's where you're going to find information about where a blessing was being planted, seeds being sown for you back at the beginning of May. And now where they have blossomed and taken off. All right. As for me, a little story, right? So I thought about my 8th house. The 8th house is about shared resources, like bigger sums of money, investments. It's merging, it's sex, it's death, it's psychological regeneration, and it's anything like weird and undercurrent and dark and hidden and occult. So I thought, well, what was I doing around the new moon in Taurus? I had sold a cryptocurrency that I just didn't deem valuable anymore, right? New moon in Taurus, a sense of having a new value around something. I just didn't deem it valuable. It wasn't curling my lashes anymore. So I sold that, thought nothing more about it. Anyway, the dark web, isn't that where cryptocurrency started? So 8th house, money, cryptocurrency, dark and mysterious kind of places, hidden and all of that. I looked at the date that I sold that on, and Taurus new moon. Today on the full moon, I peeked, a few days ago, because I knew this was coming up, I looked at that cryptocurrency again and saw that it was rising kind of somewhat rapidly. So I bought some and I traded some more for that, and now today of the full moon, it has like expanded so much. So I'm like, oh, great, that's where something, and even though it wasn't a seed being sown there, because back in the beginning of the month I actually sold that cryptocurrency, so you wouldn't really think of that as seeds being sown. Metaphorically, it more sounds like that's like the opposite. It would be, I would think that buying something as a seed being sown, but in actual fact it just was a symbol or signifier of something that once I saw that, it clicked with me that I need to revisit that for something today on the full moon to benefit me. Speaking more broadly to the collective, okay, this trine from Pluto to the full moon in Taurus, well, it's about growth and expansion, and it's about like a massive purging of the old you. Not quite finished yet. There are still remnants of that old you. There are echoes. There are still little bits of, like, I feel like it's like draining a sink or draining the bathtub sink with like the hair coming out, and there's still some gunk there, all right, in that part of your psyche. And over the next like week, really, as Pluto gears up to leave the sign of Capricorn, think of it as a purge, think of it as a cleanse, think about where you're going, and think about who you truly are at your best. And embody that, not 24 hours a day. Of course, that's not possible. But when you remember through the pendulum, find yourself here in the middle of the swinging pendulum of intensity, of apathy, of mania versus depression, metaphorically speaking. Try to find yourself in the middle once a day, twice a day, 10 minutes a day, most of the day. Try to find yourself there. It takes effort, it takes persistence, and it's possible. Another thing I would say about all that is let your mind be open, let your beliefs shift. Where I'm at, Taurus is rising at the moment of this full moon, which means that Capricorn is sitting up there in the 9th house of that chart, the house of beliefs, where Pluto is. So the last full moon that I'm witnessing in my lifetime, where I am in my time zone, Pluto's in the 9th house of beliefs. Okay, so our beliefs are transforming. Yeah, that sort of checks out to me. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this made some sense or it resonated, and if it did, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. I will leave linked down below the new moon in Taurus, 7th, 8th of May reading I did, if you want to have a reference to what I'm talking about here. That might be useful. Bye.